Robert, remember to bring the brooch I had custom made for Victoria when you come. I sent my husband a text message, and then Victoria Sterling pulled me away to goof off. She's a crucial business partner and a longtime friend. So, for her wedding gift, I'd put some thought into it, commissioning 2 pink diamond brooches for her. But when my husband, Robert Miller, arrived, I found his assistant wearing that very pink diamond brooch. Explain why the gift I got for Victoria is on your assistant's cufflink, I asked, suppressing my anger, walking slowly forward, and speaking softly with a smile. Robert froze for a moment, then turned to look at his assistant, Ashley, startled. He then said, "I'm sorry, I was too busy at the time. When Ashley asked for the brooch, I didn't really look and just gave it to her." "Tell her to take it off somewhere private," I said in a low voice. Robert nodded, but before he could speak, Ashley spoke first, and her voice was loud. "I'm so sorry, Miss Vance, I didn't know this brooch was so important. Otherwise, I wouldn't have asked Robert for it." Ashley's voice was loud enough for everyone at the wedding to hear. All eyes turned towards us, watching Ashley take off the brooch from her chest. "I'm so sorry, Miss Vance, I'll return it to Miss Sterling right away," Ashley said, looking wronged. Victoria, my friend of many years, couldn't help but make me lose face. "You keep it. Victoria Sterling never touches things others have used." What she said was quite harsh, but I didn't even have the right to be angry. It was my oversight, after all. I could only force a smile. "Victoria, I'll find you something better later. Make it double," Victoria said with a hearty laugh. Her previous words expressed dissatisfaction and saved her own face. This joke now was to save mine. I let out a sigh of relief, not because I was afraid of Victoria, but because making a mistake on someone's wedding day was truly inexcusable. Then, I took Robert Miller's hand and walked with a smile towards a corner. Robert still appeared composed and dignified, but his palm was sweating. We sat down, shrouded in shadow. We promised before we got married that even if we didn't love each other, for the sake of the Vance and Miller family's interests, we wouldn't betray the marriage, especially in public. "But what have you done?" With that, I dropped his hand. Robert quickly grabbed my hand and said, "You've misunderstood, Eleanor. Ashley is just my assistant." "Robert Miller, are you being naive, or do you think I am? She just graduated from a third-rate college, and her major isn't even relevant. How can she be your assistant? If I can see it, others can too. What will they think?" I frowned. Robert's face turned a bit pale, and he pursed his lips. "She's my junior from college, and we get along well. There's nothing going on between us, we just chat when we're bored." Was that really the case? Inside, I still felt uncomfortable. Although ours was a marriage of convenience, we had been married for many years. There was no passion, but there was affection. We were at least family who cared about each other. But I knew Robert's personality. Before, he would never have close contact with women. And he chose to ignore my last question. "Then go ask your junior if she's truly naive and inexperienced, or if she deliberately shouted to make me lose face and challenge me," I said, trying to keep my tone as calm as possible. Robert seemed slightly annoyed, frowning lightly. "Eleanor, please don't talk like that. I don't like it. I've changed almost everything you don't like. Now I don't like your junior." "Will she disappear?" I asked. Robert's grip on my hand suddenly loosened, and his voice turned cold. "Robert Miller, just because I married you, does that mean I have no freedom? All right, I understand your stance. We don't need to discuss this further." I nodded, stood up, and said, "Think carefully. If you're having other thoughts, you must tell me in advance, because we can get a divorce, but cutting ties between the Vance and Miller families' businesses isn't that simple. I need to prepare early." There was nothing more to say. The old Robert Miller was always careful about his reputation. His drivers, bodyguards, and assistants were all men. Especially in front of me, he was very careful about his interactions with any woman. This was the conduct expected of someone from his background, a quality cultivated since childhood, ingrained in his bones. But now he had made an exception for Ashley, which was enough to prove her special status. Robert seemed surprised I would say such harsh words and was stunned for a moment before catching up. His steps were hurried, lacking some of his usual elegance. He grabbed my trembling hand, his voice anxious. "Don't talk nonsense, I don't have outside intentions. I really just needed a friend." I stopped and looked at him. "Do I have male friends?" "You." Robert was momentarily lost, then said, "But just because you don't, doesn't mean I can't, right? I don't have very close male friends because it's too easy to be misunderstood. I'm trying to protect our marriage," I sighed. "All right, Robert, let's not talk about this anymore. Today is Victoria's wedding day. Just play along. We can discuss issues when we get home." Robert nodded at this, but he squeezed my hand harder. He was nervous, but what was he nervous about? Was it because I had hit the nail on the head about his special treatment of Ashley? What I didn't expect was that Ashley would cause more trouble. As the wedding officiant was building the atmosphere, Ashley suddenly shouted, "Miss Sterling, you just said you don't use things others have used. I feel like you're lying, because as far as I know, your husband has had girlfriends." At that moment, the entire venue as in an uproar. My head felt like it was about to explode. The atmosphere at the wedding instantly turned incredibly cold. Victoria and her husband on the stage also looked furious. Victoria's husband took the microphone from the officiant, maintaining his elegance as best he could, and said, "I won't let my Victoria be disrespected, so the wedding is postponed. Please bear with us. I will now invite everyone I've been rumored to be involved with to prove that my Victoria is my only one." Victoria's gaze fell on me. "Eleanor, since the person raising this question is someone close to your husband, you'll pay for David Sterling's efforts." At this moment, my face was burning. Victoria's words felt like slaps across my face. Especially the phrase "someone close to your husband," which was essentially calling me out for being cheated on. But I was in the wrong. David Sterling also gave me a deep look. "Eleanor, what on earth are you doing? This isn't like a mistake you'd make." Meanwhile, Ashley was hiding behind Robert Miller, saying with a wronged expression, "Robert, did I say something wrong?" "But what I said isn't incorrect, either. Miss Sterling's husband did have a girlfriend. I saw it on Weibo." Robert Miller's face was pale, but he didn't show anger. He even seemed to want to protect her. Seeing this, everyone else looked at me with even more interest. My husband was protecting a woman who was clearly provoking me. This made me feel as humiliated as a clown. "Rip out her tongue," I said in a cold voice. Not far away, my bodyguards immediately stepped forward. But Robert Miller spread his arms and shouted at me, "Eleanor Vance, are you crazy? Ashley just doesn't understand that the entertainment industry needs hype and rumors. She misunderstood David Sterling. She just doesn't understand. Why are you being so cruel?" It seemed no one expected him to publicly defend her. Didn't he know that his defense was an insult to me? Victoria on the stage suddenly laughed. "Is that the point? Even if David Sterling has been a playboy, anyone with a brain wouldn't raise such questions at this kind of event. Robert Miller, this manipulative innocent type you're cultivating is trying to embarrass me and provoke your wife, and you're still defending her? What, is Eleanor Vance, the princess of our circles, so insignificant in your eyes that she can be insulted at will?" David Sterling stepped forward, taking Victoria Sterling's hand. He didn't speak, but there was a clear air of menace about him. I could only shake my head and give a bitter smile. I slowly walked onto the stage, took the microphone from Victoria, and faced everyone. "I, Eleanor Vance, formally announce that I will be divorcing Robert Miller." After saying that, I stepped off the stage. The crowd was in an uproar. But only by doing this could I make things less awkward for David Sterling and Victoria Sterling. As for Robert Miller, he had gone this far, there was no need for this marriage to continue. Robert Miller shook his head. "Eleanor, what are you talking about? How can you treat divorce as a game? Ashley is just my junior, there's nothing between us." "Shut up." I glanced at him and saw Ashley smiling at me. She thought she had one. How laughable. I walked past Robert Miller, shook off his grabbing hand, then patted Ashley on the shoulder. Little sister, the elite family's game isn't played like this. With that, I left with my bodyguards. The wedding, today, could not continue. Robert Miller chased after me, shouting, "Eleanor, you really misunderstood. You have no idea how much I love you." This time, he didn't bother with Ashley. But what did that have to do with me? As for him saying he loved me, it was quite ridiculous. As I walked out of the banquet hall, my phone was already ringing. It was my dad, and my text message app was going crazy with messages from Mr. and Mrs. Miller. I took a deep breath, ended the call, and told my assistant, "Reply to my family. Tell them I can handle it." Then, I walked directly towards the parking garage. But Robert Miller still chased after me. He no longer maintained his elegance, grabbing me and pulling me towards his car. There were too many people, and I didn't want to make a bigger scene, so I shook my head at my bodyguards. I habitually sat in the back seat because the passenger seat was always occupied by my assistant. But I saw a photo booth picture on the back of the passenger seat. And it was a picture of Robert Miller and Ashley together. Although they kept their distance, Robert Miller was smiling genuinely, a smile I had never seen, a smile from the heart. Robert Miller sat in the driver's seat, fumbling with the car. "Eleanor, it's really not what you think. Actually, I've never told you, I already." "Stop talking." Impolitely, I heavily kicked the back of the passenger seat. Robert Miller was startled and hit the brakes, turning around to look at me with teary eyes. I beckoned him over. "Come, look." Robert Miller looked a bit bewildered and leaned over to see. Then, his face turned even paler. "No, Eleanor, listen to my explanation. I always wanted to take pictures like this when I was a kid, but I never did. That day I saw a photo booth on the street, and I wanted to try it, and then Ashley insisted on taking a picture together. See, Eleanor, we kept our distance." Robert Miller explained hastily. I closed my eyes, not wanting to say anything more. My heart was too chaotic. Because I suddenly realized I cared about Robert Miller more than I thought. After so many years of marriage, I had fallen in love with him long ago, I just hadn't known it myself. But by the time I knew, it was all meaningless. "Eleanor, you see how happy I was smiling? I wasn't happy because I was taking a picture with Ashley. I was happy because I felt it was new and exciting. I'd never taken one before, that's why I was so happy. Actually, I thought about asking you to take one with me too, but we're both so busy, and I was worried you'd think I was childish, so I didn't dare tell you." Robert Miller was still explaining. He was really agitated, really nervous. I shook my head. "Robert Miller, why can't you grasp the main point? Are these things important? None of this is important. The moment you brought a woman who isn't suitable to be an assistant by your side, you were already offending me. Because people in our circles were already spreading rumors that you were cultivating a manipulative innocent type. It was because I trusted you that I didn't mention it." He looked at me in panic, seemingly afraid to hear what I would say next. I continued, "But what have you done? You gave her such an important gift. You should know, as an assistant, she shouldn't even touch such an important gift, yet she touched it. At the wedding, she successively embarrassed David Sterling and Victoria Sterling, yet you were still defending her. This is tantamount to admitting your special relationship." "No." Robert Miller explained tearfully. I sighed. "All right, Robert, there's nothing that can't be admitted. After all, ours was a marriage of convenience with no emotional foundation. You'd never been in love before, so it's normal to have developed feelings for someone. I choose to respect that, so let's maintain some dignity for each other and part ways amicably." "No, no." Robert Miller shook his head, crying. I'll cut ties with her right now. Please don't say divorce anymore, okay?" Just then, Robert Miller's phone rang. He glanced at it, and his expression changed. I knew it must be Ashley calling. So I didn't say anything, just watched him to see if he would answer. Robert Miller gave me an apologetic look, then said, "I'll make it clear to her." But after answering the phone, he immediate. "Oh," I exclaimed, "don't be afraid, I'm coming right away." Then, he hung up and said to me, "You get out of the car first, Ashley's in trouble." How ridiculous. I had actually considered giving him another chance just now. It seemed there was no need for that. I looked at him deeply. "I'll draft the divorce papers and send them to you." With that, I got out of the car. "I'm not getting a divorce," Robert Miller said, but he drove away anyway. Not getting a divorce, yet going to see another woman. Did he know what he was doing? I sighed, felt in my pocket, and wanted a cigarette, but I didn't have any. After we got married, Robert Miller had said he didn't like the smell of smoke and hoped I wouldn't smoke at home. I said if he didn't like it, I would quit. He said apologetically at the time, "You don't need to quit, just don't smoke at home. It's unavoidable when you're out for business." I touched his cheek and smiled. "Robert, even though ours is a marriage of convenience, since we're married, I want to be good to you. So you can tell me anything you don't like, and I'll try my best to accommodate you." He hugged me voluntarily, then lowered his head and said, shyly yet emotionally, "Eleanor, I've never been in love, I don't know anything. Please bear with me in the future." Then, I closed my eyes. Our wedding night, I still can't forget it. He cried. I didn't know if he was crying tears of joy or because of this loveless marriage of convenience. My heart ached for him, and I swore I would treat him well, even without love. Only now did I realize that sometimes a woman's love is very simple. If this woman has given him everything, then I must love him well. That's a woman's purest love. Unfortunately, it was too late. Just then, my car stopped by the side of the road. My assistant got out of the passenger seat and handed me a cigarette. I took a deep drag. I hadn't smoked in a long time, and it felt a bit strong. "Miss Vance, where to?" the assistant asked. I sighed. "Back to the company." Since I was getting a divorce, I had to make arrangements to cut ties with the Vance family's business. These were things that needed to be prepared in advance. I worked late at the company before going home. When I entered, I saw Robert Miller sitting on the sofa, asleep. He heard my voice and quickly got up, rushing over to me. "Eleanor, why weren't you answering your phone?" I ignored him, avoided him, and went to the liquor cabinet to get a drink. "Your stomach isn't good, you shouldn't drink." Robert Miller rushed over, carefully reaching out to pull at my clothes. I dodged him, keeping my distance, and leaned against the bar, pouring a drink, asking somewhat tiredly, "Didn't you go keep your Ashley company?" "Eleanor, don't talk like that. Just now she called me and said someone was following her, and she saw someone with a knife. She just offended Victoria Sterling and David Sterling. I was worried it was people they arranged, so I had to go." Robert Miller explained. I smiled. "We've known David Sterling for at least 7 or 8 years. You should know what kind of person he is. He wouldn't use such despicable methods. And Victoria Sterling, we've known her since we were kids. You're even closer to her. You should know she wouldn't stoop to such methods. That young lady's methods were much crueler. Someone once harmed her, and she spent half a year planning. She created many coincidences, leading the person who harmed her to meet a certain corporate big shot, thus gaining an opportunity to develop abroad. When that person arrived abroad, during their first vacation shopping trip, they encountered a violent end, shot dead by some local thug. That was Victoria Sterling's method." Robert Miller said. I couldn't think about all that. Stop talking. I know you care about her a lot. I shook my head. You should also know my character. My decisions don't NGE. We are definitely getting a divorce. Are you leaving now, or am I? Eleanor, you. I didn't give him a chance to finish. I strode towards the door. Don't say any more. Let's keep some dignity for each other. That night, I returned to the family estate. My parents were very concerned about me and said Mr. and Mrs. Miller wanted to see me. But I didn't agree and spent some time comforting my parents. The Vance family and the Miller family had been close for 3 generations. But in the previous 2 generations, there had never been a marriage of convenience. Robert Miller and I marrying was due to our businesses hitting a bottleneck and being surrounded by competitors. To be precise, the Miller family was on the brink at the time and needed the Vance family's help, which led to this marriage of convenience. Now that the Miller family had overcome their crisis, the Vance family could withdraw. My parents still respected me greatly. After all, the family business was thriving under my management, they had nothing to worry about. That night, I also thought a lot. I sorted through my feelings for Robert Miller. In our marriage, there was indeed a lack of passion. It's fair to say Robert Miller and I never had a dating phase. Before marriage, I did have boyfriends and was quite experienced in relationships. Robert Miller, however, had always been very careful about his reputation and had never even had a girlfriend. So I understood his developed feelings for Ashley. But understanding didn't mean forgiveness. My greatest kindness was simply not to hate him. And next, I had a lot to deal with. David Sterling and Victoria Sterling were also from elite families, and their wedding had been indirectly ruined by me. I had to make amends. This compensation could only come from our business cooperation. Of course, David Sterling and Victoria Sterling weren't people who craved petty advantages. But I had to let everyone know I was compensating. This was equivalent to a public apology, providing a step down for both sides. Otherwise, too much gossip would inevitably create animosity. I went to bed very late and woke up feeling groggy. I didn't even eat breakfast before going to the company. But as soon as I arrived outside the office building, I saw a crowd gathered at the entrance. I walked over and saw Ashley kneeling at the entrance. She was wearing shorts and a tank top, with thorny branches tied to her back. Was this some kind of dramatic public apology stunt? I walked over, frowned, and asked her, "What are you doing?" "Ms. Vance, I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. There's really nothing going on between Robert and me, please don't misunderstand. So please don't send people to kill me?" Ashley was determined to shock everyone with her words. I smiled, because in the crowd, I saw many sneaky people recording. I didn't need to guess, she was trying to use online public opinion to pressure me. I smiled and said, "You say I sent people to kill you? Ms. Vance, I'm really wrong, please don't kill me, okay?" Ashley seemed not to understand what I was saying and just kept repeating her lines. Her strategy seemed a bit weak. Fortunately, in the crowd, I also saw my company's employees recording. So I said with a smile, "Since you say I sent people to kill you, then call the police." Huh? Ashley was stunned. What? If someone sends people to kill you, shouldn't you call the police first? I asked again. Ashley looked up, unable to speak. I looked at the people recording in the crowd. Your expressions are sneaky. You must be people Ashley hired, right? If so, don't leave. Wait for the police to arrive. In the crowd, several people immediately tried to run. But the bodyguards behind me had already rushed out. They didn't hit anyone, but they used their bodies to push them back. Inside the building, the company's security guards also rushed out and surrounded those people. Murder! The Vance group is bullying people, bullying innocent citizens, not letting people speak the truth. Those people were all being difficult, immediately playing games, while not forgetting to record. But they could record, and so could we. And my bodyguards, as well as the company's security guards, were standing still with their hands behind their backs. On the contrary, those people trying to break through them were the ones who started the physical contact. They wanted to force the bodyguards and security guards to retaliate. Unfortunately, my people were strictly trained and wouldn't fight back at all. Their actions were all recorded. I continued, "I know there must be others secretly recording. It doesn't matter. You can post it online, but if you edit it and take things out of context, I will sue you." Just then, someone brought me a chair. I sat down in front of Ashley and asked, "Do you have any other tricks to frame me?" "Use them all." "Ms. Vance, I don't know what you're talking about." "I didn't want to frame you," Ashley argued loudly. "You're not saying? Then let me guess. You must have something else planned. If I'm not mistaken, Robert Miller will be here soon, right? He'll come and see you kneeling in front of me, and then you'll act pitiful to make him disappointed in me, right?" I shook my head and smiled. All right, little sister, there's really no need for that. Because I've already decided to divorce Robert Miller. You can safely play the innocent act from now on, but I also want to remind you, the Miller family won't choose you. Just then, Robert Miller truly rushed through the crowd and came in front of us. When he saw Ashley kneeling in front of me, his face was full of distress. He looked at me with great disappointment. Eleanor, I told you, there's nothing between Ashley and me. Do you have to be so excessive? The onlow. Oker's expressions were all wonderful, because it was exactly what I had just said. And someone had already started a live stream, broadcasting everything from the beginning until now. At first, the live stream comments accused me of using my power to bully others, but now they were all cursing Ashley, calling her manipulative and calculating, and saying Robert Miller was brainless. I looked at Robert Miller. Robert Miller, you've been in the business world for many years. Do you think I would cause trouble outside my company? If it were you, would you cause trouble outside your company and invite controversy? Robert Miller was stunned. I shook my head. I'm too lazy to say more, because you'll see the full video soon. Also, the divorce papers will be sent to you this afternoon. After saying that, I stood up and left, telling my assistant on the way, remember to sue Ashley for defamation. Without any evidence, she publicly accused me of sending people to kill her, and this would surely spread online. Robert Miller wanted to chase after me, but after a moment of hesitation, he went to help Ashley up first. I didn't look at them. It was pointless. Yesterday at the wedding, I told Ashley that the elite family's game isn't played like that, yet she still played games with me, trying to pressure me online. How naive. The video quickly went viral online. There were indeed people taking things out of context. I immediately had my lawyer contact the platforms to track down their IP addresses. No matter who it was, if they wanted to mess with me, they would get messed with. The police also arrived quickly and took Ashley and the people who were recording away. Of course, those who were recording, as long as they refused to admit anything, wouldn't have any trouble. As for Ashley saying I sent people to kill her, that would require an investigation. After those who were recording were released, they even had a meal together, and the IR conversation showed disdain for me, believing I couldn't do anything to them. They were quite clever, their conversations were very vague and didn't leave any evidence. But was that the end of it? They all had relatives and friends. I sent people to their workplaces, and to their relatives' workplaces. We didn't cause trouble, just simply talked to their bosses, and their relatives' bosses. The general line was, someone from your company/organization, their relative is spreading rumors outside. This isn't good for your company/organization, is it? Saying this, the other party would automatically translate it. If they couldn't resolve it, we would publicly question whether someone from their company/organization was backing someone. Then, those people were all dealt with within a day. They all reported to Miller Group. I was too lazy to see them. I just told them to hand over the evidence of their collusion with Ashley and then kicked them out. It was dark when I was getting ready to go home. But my father-in-law called, saying he wanted to talk in person. For something like this, I definitely had to talk to Mr. and Mrs. Miller in person. Regardless of what happened between Robert Miller and me, they had always been good to me. I went to the Miller house. As soon as I entered, I smelled his famous pot roast. It was my father-in-law's specialty dish, and my favorite. Every time I came, he would prepare it in advance or make it and send it to me. My mother-in-law came over, her eyes red, and frowned. Eleanor, you've been wronged, but you know Robert. He's always careful about his reputation. Give him a chance to explain. Okay, I nodded. Since my mother-in-law said so, I had to show some attitude. But no matter what Robert Miller explained, it had nothing to do with me. My decision wouldn't change. Soon, the food was ready. My father-in-law and I sat down. He didn't speak, just poured me a drink first, and we had one. As my father-in-law W was about to speak, Robert Miller returned, and he brought Ashley with him. Ashley was carrying many supplements and said politely, Mr. and Mrs. Miller, I'm Ashley, this is what I bought for you. Throw it away, my mother-in-law said with a cold face. My father-in-law didn't speak, but his expression grew even uglier. The two elders had gone out of their way to call me here to give him a chance to explain in person. And he brought Ashley with him? Was he brainless? I almost burst out laughing and felt a bit self-deprecating. I hadn't expected myself to be compared to someone like Ashley. Mom, don't be like that, Robert Miller frowned. He wanted to sit next to me, but Ashley took the seat first, sitting down beside me. Robert Miller was stunned and could only sit next to her. However, at this moment, he was already showing some displeasure. Who told you to sit down? My father-in-law asked. Ashley said with a wronged expression, Mr. Miller, we'll be family sooner or later. After all, Robert and I are truly in love, and what needed to happen has happened. There's no need for you to be like this. These words nearly made my father-in-law and mother-in-law faint. Robert Miller's face was pale, and he looked at Ashley with disbelief, unable to say a word. Ashley looked at me provocatively. Ms. Vance, love cannot be forced. I laughed. Little sister, I already told you, the elite family's game isn't played like this. You're digging your own grave. Robert, she's scaring me, Ashley said to Robert Miller with a wronged expression. Robert Miller, however, looked at her coldly, not saying a word. I leaned back in my chair. Robert and I got married without an emotional foundation. He hadn't been in love before, so I understand and support him developing feelings for others. I paused for a moment, then said coldly to Ashley, but I still firmly believe in Robert's character. Before we divorce, he won't even let you touch his hand. As soon as I said this, Ashley's face instantly turned extremely unpleasant. Sure enough, I had guessed correctly. Robert Miller cried and said to me, Eleanor, it's great that you can believe me. I believe you, but we still have to divorce. I shook my head. Robert, you need to understand something. It's not just having a physical relationship with someone else that's a betrayal of me. Emotional infidelity is also unforgivable. And your actions these past few days have torn our marriage apart. We are definitely getting a divorce. After saying that, I stood up and said to my father-in-law, this little sister has brothers in her family. I'm afraid they might be after the Miller family's wealth. If you can't handle it, call me. I'm still on good terms with Victoria Sterling. Then call Victoria Sterling, my mother-in-law said quickly. They were planning something deadly. Even Robert Miller didn't stop them. Robert Miller got up and grabbed my hand. Eleanor, actually, you don't know. Stop talking. The divorce must happen. I waved my hand and walked straight out. Behind me was Robert Miller's desperate crying. Ashley, however, felt like she had won. She said to Robert Miller impatiently, Robert, she doesn't love you at all. After all, you don't have an emotional foundation. I can feel how good you are to me, so why can't we be together? Do you really think you're someone? Robert Miller wiped away his tears, his expression becoming extremely cold. He took out his phone, found a photo, and handed it to her. Look with your damn eyes. Ashley was stunned. Then she saw on the phone screen a girl in a white dress. She said with some surprise, this looks like me, but not quite. That's Eleanor Vance. That's her when she was a teenager. The only reason I treated you specially is because you look like her. And I never had feelings for you. For Eleanor Vance, I didn't even have emotional infidelity. It's just because she was getting colder and colder towards me, I wanted to use you to stimulate her. Robert Miller said this, then squatted down and cried loudly. My mother-in-law immediately hugged him. Robert Miller said, Mom, I screwed up. What should I do? My father-in-law laughed, then pointed at Ashley and said, Get out. Ashley left the Miller house, bewildered and at a loss. And she wouldn't know that Victoria Sterling, who had long wanted to get rid of her, had already taken my call and was making arrangements. I returned home and had someone send the divorce papers. But Robert Miller wouldn't sign them and even came directly to my house. After he came in, he pleaded with Mr. and Mrs. Vance to take him to my room. I was sitting on the bed, planning to do some work and then go to sleep, and was startled to see him. Robert, stop this. It's not possible for us anymore, I said helplessly. Robert Miller suddenly laughed. He said, Eleanor, based on your reaction, you're not angry just to protect the interests of the two families. You've fallen in love with me, haven't you? I sighed. We've been together for many years. How could there be no feelings? It's just that there was no passion, which is why I didn't even realize it myself. I see, Robert Miller nodded, slowly took a knife from his bag, and put the tip of the knife to his throat. Eleanor, if you insist on getting a divorce, I'll die in front of you. As he spoke, he actually pricked himself. I saw blood flow and felt my scalp tingle. Was this man crazy? Robert Miller continued, Eleanor, you can stop me from killing myself now, but you can't stop me forever. As long as you divorce me, I'll die anytime. When that happens, help me take care of Mr. and Mrs. Miller. Are you sick? I shouted. Robert Miller didn't speak and didn't lower the knife. I knew he was a man of his word. Helplessly, he and I returned to our own home. But we slept in separate rooms. I told him we could not divorce, but he shouldn't interfere if I found other men. And that very night, I really did invite a few men over. I could see he was hurt, but I didn't care. And the next day, I even brought home a newly debuted male celebrity. To make Robert Miller completely give up on me, that night, I deliberately pretended to make a lot of noise. When Robert Miller pushed the door open, I was pretending to sit in the male celebrity's lap. I just glanced at him dismissively. Not getting a divorce? Fine. I'll be like this my whole life, bringing different men home every day. Robert Miller covered his mouth, crying, gritting his teeth. I'm not getting a divorce, because without you, I'll die. Then, he left, and even closed the door behind him. Half a month later, I received a message from Victoria Sterling. Ashley, who was abroad, was shot dead by a local thug while partying at a nightclub. However, this no longer affected my emotions. Because I was almost going crazy. No matter how many men I brought back, Robert Miller just wouldn't get a divorce. Even when I made outrageous demands, like asking him to cook for those men, he just quietly agreed. Now, all he cared about was not getting a divorce, and he would do anything for that. I truly didn't know what to do, so I made plans to have dinner with David Sterling and Victoria Sterling. They both got me half drunk first before we started talking. Victoria Sterling's attitude was clear. Eleanor, sometimes it's not a bad thing to be a little naive, and we know about Robert's feelings for you. What feelings does he have for me? He's not getting a divorce, he's just not willing to give up, is he? I was speechless. David Sterling was stunned for a moment, then said, then you don't need to think about anything. Just continue like this. I got home drunk, and it was Robert Miller who helped me into the bedroom. He wiped my body. While whispering in my ear, last time you were drunk, I also helped you wipe down, and then you got frisky. Later, he said a lot more, and I heard some of it intermittently. Eleanor, you always say there's no emotional foundation between us, but you've forgotten we were classmates from elementary school to high school. Back then, you'd bring me to and from school every day. Although it was Mr. and Mrs. Vance who asked you to, don't you think about why it had to be you? Actually, I knew I had a soft personality, like a girl. Everyone else disliked me, and you disliked me too, but only you protected me. And didn't you know someone was secretly watching you every day back then? That was me. I'm someone with difficulty expressing emotions. I didn't know how to express feelings, I was even afraid you would know. Later I went abroad for college. Do you know what I was most afraid of? What I feared most was coming back to find you married. And do you know what made me saddest? It was that I kept following you and found you frequently changing boyfriends. Fortunately, you weren't married when I returned. I pleaded with my parents to propose the marriage. We got married. Do you know how happy I was that night? Actually, I could also feel your kindness towards me, but I could also feel you becoming colder and colder towards me. Especially after you and David Sterling opened up the international market, you rarely talked to me. And many men sent me photos they took with you. I knew you wouldn't cheat, but I was scared, deathly scared. Then I saw Ashley. She looked like you when you were young, very much like you. But I had no feelings for her, because she's all looks and no substance. I don't like women without depth. But I knew that if I used her to provoke you, maybe you would pay more attention to me. But I didn't expect I would screw up. I didn't expect you would guarantee a divorce without even giving me a chance to explain. Robert Miller said this, then lay on my chest and fell asleep. I woke up the next day, pushed him off, and left the house. Just like before, I would occasionally bring men home, and he seemed to have become numb to it. I kept wondering, was what I heard that night a dream, or did he really say those things? It wasn't until 3 months later that I found out I was pregnant. He hadn't made any demands, and I continued to do as I pleased. However, his concern for me did increase. But how to deal with my feelings for him specifically, I still had no idea. But since I was having his child, what else could I do? The men I brought home were just for show. I hadn't touched any of them. But that day I got drunk, and Robert Miller took advantage of me again. What a mess.